Let's say there are two engineers who work for a construction company. They need to order cement bricks for a certain project. They have to build a wall that is 10 feet wide and plan to lay the base with 30 bricks. The first engineer does not consider the importance of significant figures and calculates that the bricks need to be 0.333 feet wide, but the second engineer does and reports the number as 0.3, since they figured that a precision of 0.01 feet or 0.1 inches would be precise enough for the work they were doing. Now, when the cement company received the orders from the first engineer, they had a great deal of trouble. Their machines were precise, but not so precise that they could consistently cut to 0.001 feet. However, after a good deal of trial and error and testing, they finally machined all the bricks that were needed. Now, when they used the second engineer's orders, which was 0.3 feet, it was much easier for the machines to create concrete blocks compared to the first engineer. It generated minimal waste and overall took a lot less effort. When the engineers received the bills, they compared the bill for the services, and the first engineer was shocked at how expensive his was. When they consulted with the company explained the situation. They needed such a high precision for the first order that they required significant extra labor to meet the specification. This is why it was much more expensive for the first order. So what is the point of this story? Significant figures matter. It's important to have a reasonable gauge of how precise a number is, so you know not only what the number is, but how much you can trust it and how limited it is. Significant figures tell us where to round, so we don't have to worry about rounding to specific decimal places. But the main point of significant figures is to make sure that the answer we calculate is not more precise than the numbers we started out with. And to explain on what I just said, here's an example. Let's say I wanted to find the mass of these two burgers. To find a more specific answer, I used the NASA laser scale, which came out to 15.53354 grams. To find a less specific answer, I used the toy scale, which came out to just 15 grams. So let's say I wanted to find the density of the burger. Somehow I found the volume to be 3.5 centimeters cubed, so when using the density equation it came out to this really specific number, which doesn't make sense because I started out with two imprecise numbers and it came out to a really specific answer that I could have gotten using the NASA scale. Now this time I rounded my final answer using significant figures to 4.3 grams over centimeters cubed, which makes sense because my answer is just as precise as the numbers I started out with, and because out of the two initial numbers, the least amount of 6 weeks is 2, which means I had to round it to 2 6 weeks. Now on the other hand, if we started out with two really specific numbers, then it would be totally fine to have a really specific number. But that is only because we started out with two really specific numbers in the first place. Now I'll use an analogy to help explain this even further. Let's say you're with your friends and one of your friends says that she wants to go to a milk tea place downtown. Now her statement is very vague and you don't know exactly where she's talking about. Now your second friend is just as unhelpful as your first friend. He says, "Oh, do you mean the one next to the stoplight?" This is also very vague. Now judging from your two friends' statements, could you possibly come up with this answer? You answer with, "You must be talking about the milk tea place on the southwest corner of Lincoln Avenue and Carter Drive." Now there's absolutely no way you could have gotten this answer by listening to your friends' statements. Their statements were very vague, whereas your answer is very specific, which is the same concept of significant figures.
Created using Powtoon.